for being here. The focus of today is focus on high school and what are the possibilities as we rethink our schools in this environment and look forward to high school and what it might look like, particularly when we're rethinking it. So with that, you have three presenters today. You have Tara Topier from the Tamalpais Union High School District. She's the superintendent. We have Dr. Amy Carter, who's an assistant superintendent with the Novato district. And we also have Eileen Smith, a director here at the County Office of Education. So thank you all for all the steps you took to make this possible today. And I'm going to hand this off first to Tara. So Tara, there she is. Tara, thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you. So I think we have a slide deck, and I'm just going to introduce that we have been working with Eileen and Amy up in Novato and also with San Rafael on looking at various iterations for high school. And for me, I'm going to talk a little bit about the process in which we are undergoing. So what we are doing is we are forming teams. So we have an instructional design team that is comprised of our district leadership team, as well as the union leadership team, our teachers union leadership team. Because this is a working condition, we negotiate it. So that team is working on instructional design and delivery for next year. And we also have a safety team that is, there's overlap in those two teams. And the safety team is really looking at facilities and transportation and traffic patterns inside the schools and sanitation, all of those requirements. So those two teams are working together. We're also gathering feedback through surveys. We'll probably do a series of surveys, and we have 3 focus groups: parents, students, and teachers. So that's sort of where we are. There's still a lot of unknowns. And one of the things I wanted to talk to everyone about, Eileen asked me to share, was, one of our, part of our process is ensuring that we have success criteria. So what we've done together, oops, sorry, it's all right, is establish success criteria so that we know against what we are building. So these were the success criteria that we collaboratively came up with our union leadership, as you can see there. Given all of the constraints and all of the sort of uncertainty, we wanted to make sure that we were keeping students' safety and learning front and center, and particularly our most in need students.
Thanks, Tara.
You're welcome, Eileen. I think I did it in my 2 minutes.
You sure did, and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, Eileen, boss me around on the slides. All right, so I'll just pick it up from here. So in Novato here, we actually took the same priorities that had been established in TAM, and we're using those as also our guiding principles with our working groups. One of the options that we're looking at is a 3x3 model. MCOE has really challenged us to make sure that whatever we're building as districts, that we ensure that there are supports in place to provide both access and the successful completion of courses. This is such a difficult time for students to be home and mastering content, in some cases independently. And so how can we build sort of a better airplane that can support these students and ensure they have all the supports that they need in the best of times to be successful? As we looked at what would be a successful Bell model, the constraints that we're working on are, of course, the cleaning challenges, the class size, and that relates to sort of our teacher load and what our teachers are facing, the number of student contacts, the student workload, and somehow serving these many gods in one elegant schedule. So that's the simple task that we're all faced with. So one of the solutions that a colleague of mine, Dr. Gansler up in Sonoma, has worked on, and he presented this to the CTE on Monday, and they were really excited about the opportunity here, not only for CTE courses, but also for VAPA, Visual and Performing Art courses. And I'll highlight that later in the slide deck. But a 3x3 is really a schedule where you have students take 3 classes each semester. The advantages here are that you can create a schedule where the class is cleaned between every single small cohort. The student contacts for the teachers who are doing a lot of this work online in Google Classroom throughout the 2021 school year is closer to really 75 students or so, up to 90. The students only have to worry about 3 courses and getting their projects done for 3 courses at a time, which we think is a lot more achievable given what we know about stress and its impact on the student mind. By running a 3x3, you're able to create much smaller class sizes than you normally can when you're offering 7 courses and a rotating prep. And so when we do the math here in Nevada, we go from an average class size of 35 down to 25. Which is really exciting because then we feel like we can really achieve those small cohorts that we may need somewhere on the neighborhood of 11 to 15 or 16. So example of what this might look like for a freshman student would be taking an English 9 course, world history, science, taking those all through the fall, completing those in December, and then second semester popping into their math, their PE, their visual and performing arts or foreign language courses. We would really encourage for freshmen that the second semester be where they start their work on foreign language or their work on mathematics. And so they're only getting that summer gap in between courses. So we do see a little bit of a disadvantage having them take underclassmen take math that first block. And so you'd really want your upperclassmen to be taking pre-cal, trigonometry in that first block and saving that second block so that these young students can have a little more continuity. And that's been one of the ideas that has come out of our math and foreign languages departments. This shows how someone who is really focused on advancing a particular skill, be that their foreign language or be that their visual and performing arts, can do a double block and have a whole rich year where they're building upon that. So this would be a sample junior schedule. Sample schedule for a student with an IEP is actually they get this sort of 4th bridge class that helps accelerate them along their way to achieving their high school diploma and ensures that they come to campus every single day to get the support that they need. Your other students, as long as we're in small groups, will be on a rotating every 6th day. They'll see their first period teacher. But an IEP student or an English language learner or a student who needs more help will be in contact with their teachers every single day. 12th grade class, again, you'd want them to take their higher level math class right there at the beginning, complete their graduation credits, and have the opportunity to really go deep in their arts or their CTE courses. So let me walk you through what a day would look like. So if you look here on Monday, this would be first period. And first period A, so if you have to split a class of 25 in half, your A group is the ones that attend today. And so they would get an hour and a half or so of supportive instruction with their teacher. This is really the flipped classroom model because of the turbulence, because of the variability. We felt like we needed to have a model that if we do need to return to our homes for a time period, that all the instruction remains coherent and clear online. And so all of our courses would be in Google Classroom. And so you need to think about this time period not as that the teacher is teaching the children so much as the teacher is supporting the students through their modules. I'll show in a minute how we've sort of built in a catch-all around that. But I think what's exciting that this slide opens up for us is our CTE, our visual performing arts, even our PE classes we have given them a real generous block in the afternoon. And this is because these courses are so interactive. They're really not performing in an online environment, and we really want to get individuals who have those hands-on courses or performance-based courses with their instructor, and so they have the opportunity to come and work on scenes or work on cars and design teams for that whole afternoon. One of the things that we're hoping, because these tend to be in much larger spaces, is that maybe we can get more than 15. If you have 15 inside working on architectural designs and 15 outside working construction skills, that there's a possibility there. So we're really excited about what that gives to our electives in this model. If you had the opportunity to power up, where we're all back to normal, this is a real doable schedule for both the child and the educator. And so we've got that in place if that possibility comes to us. And again, talking about access and supports, here's what that time broken down could look like. So as an educator, I have my students, my small group of students come from 8:30 to 10. I help them through the upcoming module of the week, give them some vocabulary, some context, have some discussion, some check-in time for that social emotional wellness. And then at 10 o'clock, I would release every child who was on pace with their module. And any child who was not on pace with their Google Classroom module would stay with me for a while so that I could make sure to get them back on pace. And so this is where we as educators become the college educated parent at the table, helping a child succeed. We step in and help support that role where we know many of our students don't have that. And we give them the opportunity to answer questions and support them. Because a block-based class is so fast-paced, this element is essential. And so in exploring this model, we knew we had to put a safeguard in place to make sure that our students are on pace. So this is really it. We take the time to slow down with any of those kids. We figure, that could be maybe 4 kids that are off pace. You stay with them, you support them. And then they have their opportunity to grab lunch. So we're excited about what that provides for the academic supports of students who are really needing that from us right now. Included in the slide deck, I've just included some of the early messaging that we're pushing out for teachers about the responsibilities. Again, everything needs to remain in the Google Classroom, just in case things turn and we do need to return back, and that we are expecting staff to do some minimal cleaning around the space. Our students participate in 3 Google Classrooms, and we're also expecting them to follow some protocols. We're excited about this because we feel like it's very doable for both teacher and for students. It meets the criteria of those small groups, prevents cross-pollination, and provides them the consistency and clarity that they need. So I'm going to throw it back to Eileen to finish up, but I wanted to put that in front of you. And if anyone has any questions, or I've got an even more detailed slide deck that I'm happy to share. Oh, you're muted, Eileen.
Thanks, Amy. I will go through these kind of rapidly because I did notice there's some questions about AP courses. And yes, before I even start on this, I just want to say that yes, in fact, what Amy is talking about is condensing a full year class into 1 semester. And that's why she has those time blocks, and she'll speak more about that in a minute. But I just want to go back to the beginning, and that word iterative, and that first slide about an iterative process. Iterative means that we basically repeat a process, and in order to generate a sequence of outcomes, it is repetitive. And that sequence will approach the same endpoint or end value. And in our case, that end value of this repetitive process is equitable outcomes for each and every student. So in order to do that, we need to commit and agree to the focus on social emotional learning, connecting the kids to the teachers, teachers to teachers. So, and we need to acknowledge there is going to be a learning loss. And there's also going to have been learning gains. Some thrive in this environment. We need both authentic assessment and authentic learning. And we need to accelerate versus remediate. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit on another slide as well. So we also have to develop the habits of mind that create independent learners, because as Amy said, we're flipping it. They're going to do some on their own, then they're going to come together. So we have to focus on habits of minds. That's our jobs as educators. Amy's correct. We have to ramp up and ramp down. We don't know what's going to happen. And obviously, in order to do all this, we're going to be engaging in culturally responsive practices. So in terms of access and support, what we're basically saying is, since it's happening quickly, students can fall behind rapidly. So that ability for the teacher to know immediately, monitor the progress of each and every student through exit tickets daily, whatever it is, we need to know immediately who's mastering the standards and who's struggling so that we can correct it immediately. Can you go to the next one, Amy, please? Okay, so this is what I want to talk about. In order to accelerate, it means if you think about a braid and braiding hair, it means that what we're doing is we're going to say, first of all, what happened last year? What maybe were some of those learning losses? The slide before this one shows it. So we need to know, what did the student need to deeply understand to master this year's curriculum? And as we're weaving that braid, what we're doing is we're saying, what concepts from prior years might we have to weave into this year's curriculum so that the student has access to this year's? And then we need to constantly be monitoring it to know as we're going along. So you can look at those slides at your own leisure as you continue this process, but that is the difference. It means that we don't go backwards and start with last year. It means we are looking forward. We're looking at this year's standards and we're saying, how can we support the students that have a few gaps by weaving the curriculum in? So I think now let's open it up so that we can answer some of the questions that I believe you had for Amy. And I know that one of them, Amy, was about accelerated the advanced placement courses. Can you talk about that?
Yep. So advanced placement courses are totally doable in this model. In fact, it's really based off a 4x4, which is a national model that takes place across the state. We've done some research around the success rates of students who take a spring AP test after taking the fall module for AP, and the success rates are very high. The recommendation from the AP message boards is that you do a spring crash course with your team. You bring them back in the spring to prepare them for that examination, and there is good success that way. It's really discouraged to offer the AP in the second module. So because the test comes so soon that you're not able to really go through the full curriculum. And so the success that others have seen is doing it through that fall module, and it's definitely doable this way.
Thanks, Amy. That makes good sense. Somebody else is asking, how can you integrate the other school activities, perhaps, wellness, college and career counseling, student-led clubs, that type of thing? Where does that fit into the 3x3?
So I think what's exciting about this is your first period is basically a full day, and students are either going to come in the morning to meet with their teacher, or if they're doing CTE or VAPA, they're going to be in the afternoon. And so because of that, you have a lot of opportunity during the school day to create those opportunities and feather them in. And so that's something that once we've landed the plane on this, we already have a team that's thinking through how to offer those opportunities.
Okay, and then there's another one, and if Tara's still on, she might be able to answer this one with you, because it's about how might schools integrate community-based organizations to add supports from other areas where students are connected. Also to help coordinate these schedule changes with those existing community supports. So I think both Novato and Tam, if you have any suggestions on that, please share them.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of pressure on our systems to really lock onto our schedules so that we can have better conversations with our outside partners. Right now, those are being had, but we're trying to think of new ways that we can support that. I think both in San Rafael and in TAM, we're reaching out to College of Marin and the junior colleges, because we know that for some of our students, these 3 courses won't be enough, and we'd love to maximize those dual enrollments and help those kids get on to have college credits along with their high school courses. So we're excited about the opportunities there, and we're in early conversations with College of Marin of what can be done to support those students.
Thanks, Amy. I didn't know if Tara wanted to add to that or not. If not, there is another question about, in this hybrid model, Amy, can you just clarify, do students come to campus one of every 6 days and teachers come every day?
So teachers come every day. And so I would teach half of the cohort, part A of the cohort, 1, 2, 3. Part B of the cohort, 1, 2, 3. Part A of the cohort, 1, 2, 3. And so the only exception to that would be a special ed student or an English language student or someone who needs more support, who would be period 1, 2, 3, then learning center, learning center, learning center, period 1, 2, 3, learning center, to make sure that we don't leave any student behind.
And I don't know if Mike Grant is on this call as well, but there's a number of questions about the cleaning properly, and are we putting teachers at risk? So I'm not quite sure who maybe wants to answer that one, Mary Jane, just about the cleaning.
I'll take those for right now. So at this point, we are following public health guidelines, number one. If you have a chance to go on to the Rethinking Schools websites, there are several pieces of information related to facilities, related to cleaning, related to appropriate EPE or PPE. So we have a new video there related to the cleaning. I think the question, when we're talking about, quote, all staff, we've referred to it as all hands on deck, keeping things clean. It does not mean that the deep cleaning that a custodian would typically do would be then become the responsibility of other team members, but rather in high touch areas that we would be taking additional steps. So for example, that if you have a Xerox machine that several people use, in spite of the fact that it's distanced appropriately, that we make sure that those are wiped down in between. Same with issues, anywhere that there's high touch. So it's more that type of a thing. In the elementary school, for example, if students are on the playground, one cohort, that switching of cohorts would involve cleaning the equipment, by way of example. All of this, though, falls into an area that I think is still uncertain and not known. And so just to frame it for you, in our community, we're working directly with our health officer, Matt Willis, along with Lisa Santora. They will be ultimately the people that will provide the ultimate guidance related to how much flexibility will we have. What we know, and yesterday your superintendents were all on a very long call with Dr. Willis, and we know that our target date is somewhere around mid-June. We will be providing scenarios to work through with Dr. Willis and Lisa and all the leaders countywide. In order to get a better sense of what it will look like. So we don't yet know what is the cohort size going to be. And then the next question, will the students be required to wear face coverings at all grade levels? What about temperatures? Will we be taking temperatures? What about testing? Will staff required to be tested one time a month? What about, and so we could just go on and on with all the whatabouts, but just to know that the purpose of all the sessions we've been providing, so this one in particular, is even though there's a lot of unknowns, there's stuff we do know, and it's incumbent on all of us to begin to address those. So right now, throughout our county, there are walkthroughs happening with all the stakeholders to look at the schools, look at the steps we need to take. And I think as you looked at the parameters that Tara provided, along with what you've heard here, is that there are several issues that people are looking at, and the safety of students and staff is critical to the story, to this overall story. But what we're doing is taking all the steps necessary to be ready for our students when they return. So I think at this point, we are going to go ahead, if that's okay, and stop. So just a reminder, this information will be, this has been recorded. It will be online. The backup materials will be available to you as well. We appreciate your joining us. We will have more sessions coming. So next week on Tuesday, you'll get a chance to hear again about another small cohort. But in this case, this will be what's happening at Bayside MLK. And this is a program, a small school in our community that is already serving, I think, up to 30 students right now. And the steps that they've taken to reopen and have opportunities for students to work with the staff. So that will be next week on Tuesday. Next Thursday, we're going to hear from a preschool, so early childhood, any of you involved in that, a preschool about the steps that they've taken. And in fact, it's our colleague at Ross Preschool that will be sharing. And then the next Tuesday, we're going to be hearing from our independent school leaders, Travis Brownlee from Marin Academy, as well as Chris Mazzola from Branson, maybe someone from Marin Catholic, not sure yet, but they will be talking about how they've been approaching this year and as they move into the next year. As you know, well, you're aware, we also work with all our private independent parochial schools, so we're trying to make sure that we're getting the voices of a lot of different people as we do this work. So thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Eileen. Thanks, Tara.